Thank you, Mr. Chair, very much. It really is a real honor to have you here, Commander Thien, and I want to echo the fact that you've heard so much, that your staff in Washington really does do a good job, and we really appreciate their help in presenting us with lots of facts when we need them and then pressing forward. The other thing I'd like to say is we really do appreciate the auxiliary. I like to tell the story about, I've got a wife and 3 daughters, and about being at a meeting that I was very familiar with, and I said that the auxiliary there was the backbone of the organization. And I know that's true in your organization. On my way home, my wife was with me, and she said, "John, they're not only the backbone, they're the brains." The other thing that is so important, again, it's great that you're here, Commander, and your team, but the most important thing is that the room is filled with people that have made the trip, and Mike and Tamara Switzer from Arkansas are a great example of that. But there is no substitute for you being in the offices personally, and I think your team up here can attest to this, talking to your congressman, talking to the staff, and letting them know how important these issues are, not only here, but also back in your state and things like that. I'd like to talk a little bit about the, trying to get the, not just for mandatory accounts, but for the discretionary spending also, so that we can have extended budgeting periods. I agree with you, Mr. Wallace, and that, we've got some real problems with leadership and things in the VA, and we've got tremendous people there working hard. But how much more do we compound that problem if you don't know what your budget's going to be until you get into the cycle? We had a great display of, we've got something accomplished here. A few weeks ago, we passed an appropriations bill. The problem was it was 3 months late. How does any business, how does any family, run their own finances when you simply don't know what your funding is? So, again, can you all comment a little bit more about how important that would be to get this done?
Funding is the key. The issue of more veterans into the VA and the unknown cost is something we've talked about at length. There are some precautions that have to be made. Number one, we have to make sure that the disabled veterans are top priority. Number two, we have to figure out a source of income. Maybe it's the veteran who comes in has to pay more money. Number three, we have to put in some restrictions to make sure that I, as a medical center director, aren't going after those people instead of taking care of the disabled veterans. I think it's a positive idea, but I think it's something we have to work through, and we've talked to the staff about doing that to make sure that we can give veterans the opportunity, if they want to come into the system, to come in. And if they're not service-connected, then there's a price for admission and so forth. But then we get to the capacity issue, which how many can come in at one time, and that's what all has to be studied. But I think we should give the veterans that opportunity, but we've got to look at all the corners and so forth.
We appreciate that. The other thing on the the committee, House and Senate worked very, very hard. You all worked very, very hard to get a very, very robust GI Bill passed, and we can be very proud of that. The idea that we can't get state institutions or institutions in general to apply in-state tuition makes no sense to me. We are literally, as a result of passing that bill, have dumped many, many millions of dollars into their coffers. And like I say, that's something that we need to get done. In regard to veteran suicides, it's such a complicated effort, or not a complicated effort, but a complicated situation. We've got a lot of veterans that haven't overtly killed themselves, but they're drinking themselves to death. They're self-medicating, or they're using prescription drugs or other things that they shouldn't be doing. They tell us that around half of the people that have committed suicide have never been deployed. So it's not an easy situation. And then in the veterans community, the average age is older, up around 50. So what I would like to do is really, anything you can do to survey your members, anything that you can do to help us with the root cause would be very, very helpful. My concern, and I think we're better at this now, is simply the VA, we put so much pressure on them, and you all put pressure, we put pressure, that they are doing a much better job. There's a tendency sometimes to medicate individuals in an effort to do something rather than getting to the underlying causes. And then in some individuals, instead of that helping, it goes the other way. I think, actually makes the situation much worse where individuals become suicidal. So can you comment on that a little bit for us?
DOD was atrocious for just giving people medications. They'd give them 90 days worth of medication, send them out on the street, and then go get a VA appointment, get another 90 days worth of, and you could sell them on the street, trade with people, use alcohol and what have you. They've gotten better than that. The warrior transition units and the wounded warrior regiments now have case managers who manage, and most people that are on really powerful drugs don't get more than 7 days supply. And they're monitored constantly, but that doesn't prevent them from going out on the street and doing it if they're not taking care of the other causes that they have with the drugs. I think VA is getting better at it. I could never sit here and tell you that throughout the whole VA system they're adhering to what should be done, because as you say, the easiest way to take care of a patient is to just give them the drugs and say that'll keep them quiet, and that's not what we want to do. We want to take care of that individual in the right way. I think it's getting better from what we've seen in the past, but there still is a long way to go.
Good. Thank you.